Final piece today that's going to go into many avenues, alt media and religion and all kinds of other things. But I saw, what started it off, I saw a post the other day of impressive bullshittery, all of which all of us have bought into in varying times, and so there's no shame in that. And the 2010-2014 brought in a range of elevated programs, and I will use that term correctly because it is a program, into the alt media, all largely telling us what we wanted to hear. And it was the era of the channeled messages of dear ones. You know, that is your first clue that it's fake to begin with, dear ones. If it starts with that, forget it. And all of that was engineered by voice-to-head technology. Again, it's another mind control program. So it plays into the last piece before the music break. And it's for those who are susceptible to that level of programming. And of course, we always heard of how generally the Pleiadians, or the word others, are just on the outskirts of our planet or the galaxy, and we're coming here to save us and bring us abundance and new technology. That's how it went. It and they never arrived. You know. But did anyone notice during their channeled messages of any of them telling you they were going to prevent another program that was inserted and running at the time in the alt media, particularly by the fake Alex Collier, who from death records died between 2007 and 2009, of how they were going to stop Nibiru from destroying the planet so they can come and meet us. It's funny that, isn't it? Nibiru is coming to destroy the planet, they said. You know, it was every post. Nibiru's, we're all, and what happens next? Well, yeah, you're all going to die. Yeah. You're all going to die. Nibiru. And yet, none of the channeled messages mentioned it or discounted it. It's funny that, isn't it? We touched on contradictory pieces recently, but alt media is kind of riddled with them. Contradictory stories was order of the day. You know, people were demanding when is Nasara and collateral accounts and the birth certificates are going to pay out so people can go and buy lots and lots of materialistic stuff or whatever. None mentioned pooling funds and improving life or the planet. But at the same time that was going on, and people were also demanding when are the replicator machines coming out? Remember them? Oblivious to the fact through a lack of critical thinking, if you had a replicator, why would you need money? Non-thinking. Of course, we had various money programs then of how we're all going to get X amount from 1 million to 6 billion each from a plethora of platforms. And this particular post this week had them all wrapped into one post. It was like a magic carpet ride back to the golden era period of the alt media, where total bullshittery just reigned. You know, all of them dates, 2 weeks, tomorrow. That's still going on tomorrow. I don't know whether Backstabber Man is still staying 2 weeks or not. But we still got tomorrow with the RV. Various full moons, the July the 4th extravaganzas came and went. And to be balanced and fair, from an observer point of view, to date the trust hasn't delivered the way certainly Kim or I would have wanted either. You know, that is a fact. And yet giant strides have been made by the trust in so many other ways, which will be lost on many outside of this group and conveniently lost by some other groups also. But we have at least ascertained there is no Nasara, Jasara, RVs, GCRs, San Germain trusts, and we did get a full lowdown of what really was the collateral accounts and who are the murky players within it. What is the 5-star trust? The fact that the spiritual Wonder Boy accounts actually exist, and a plethora of other revelations that gave the average person a chance to really understand who is who and what is what. And it has given you all a more clearer picture. And the biggest thing is it has allowed some people to focus into better levels of thinking, and also preserved your energy away from bullshit and preferably onto more valid things. And yet, out of all of those monetary-based programs peppered throughout the alt media, it was on every site. For those who were around on the alt media then, there was never a single concerted effort by the alt media to discount or question any of those various programs, until the trust came along. Funny that, isn't it? And to any impartial observer, it becomes indicative. But 2014 brought in new programs involving money and new levels of bullshittery, the blue avian narrative, which was included in that article. All designed to steer you away from some of the previous crap that had been put out, because around that time some of us had started to work out their lies and levels of intrusion into the alt media field by agents. They were always there, directing one program after another, as mentioned earlier, contradictory ones. But by this stage, and this was the kicker, there were many more Americans were coming out of their collective 9/11 induced amnesia, and many joined the alt media around that time to study that, and down the rabbit hole you go into the other fields. And from their perspective, that had to be curbed by the so-called authorities, and then in came the personality-led narrative and characters, who still to this day, if you believe their fake algorithmic figures, garner much support. But the gist of it is the alt media has become the mainstream media in disguise. They're both ran by the agencies. Now, Wilcock himself became the prime candidate for that programme, having roped in Drake, Keenan, Anna von Reitz, and eventually Benjamin Fulford into his circle, and out went Kerry Cassidy. But the question will always remain as to why Wilcock doesn't come under the same scrutiny as other shows, and in particular this one. Why has he written absolutely nothing for the past 3 years? Nothing. His latest post was a complete copy of the ones he wrote back in 2012, like a loop again. He's busy writing for a book and a movie that's been coming out for the last 11 years now, from what I can remember, or preparing for a conference to recycle old material because there is no new, and charging hundreds of dollars for it. But it is something to ponder on after he has spent much of the last 10 years crying poverty. How does he afford to go to Banff every year? You do realise Banff is an elite hideout, and all types of ritualistic stuff goes on in Banff, not to mention the fact that he goes there at the same time every year, it appears, around what is known as the harvest moon in September, which is when the elites do their rituals, virgin sacrifices, and eyes wide shut type parties, of which I have photographic evidence of Wilcox attending at least one of them. Has he ever told his followers of what goes on in those parties? No. So what's he hiding then? Is the big question, is it not? The Blue Avian was a new program delivering promises to the gullible masses in a story we would all have loved to happen as it was relayed. Me included. It would have been fantastic. But a few questions on it and it all fell apart. They played on hope, played on masses all too content for others to do things for them. The Blue Avians were coming to save us. And played on their naivety and the deep-seated desire of the masses to know the one question: are they alone? And neglecting the fact we're not alone on this planet, never mind the universe. Something to ponder on is, if we're the only living creature, that must mean we are God. That's blasphemy, the religious will cry. But is it with your contradictory thinking patterns? You can't have it both ways. We can only be alone if we are the only living species on this planet. But what about pets, animals, mammals, fish, birds, insects, plants and trees? Do they not count as living species? So how can we be alone? There are billions who believe in a non-physical entity of one form of God or another. Does he, she or it not count either? How can you go to church and believe in that entity and yet still turn around and say, I or we are alone or lonely? Isn't that a tad contradictory in what you believe? Or perhaps it's a deep-seated higher self telling you what is real and what is not. The same people who believe in a non-physical entity that they've never seen turn around and tell you, in some cases, you're a bit mental if you believe in another non-physical entity called ghosts. Again, is that not contradictory? So what you're saying is that only God can in essence be a ghost, holy or otherwise. So on the one hand, because you stand in a building with a certain book, you will believe in the Holy Ghost and yet dismiss people as cranks if they see a ghost and relay it to others. Contradictory again, isn't it? Well, like I said in a recent show, the same people will tell you it's ridiculous if you believe in zombies, and yet asking a dead man to come back from being dead for 2,000 years to return and save them. Save them from what exactly? What is he saving? Have people actually defined what he is allegedly saving them from? Jesus will return and save us. From whom? From what? I thought we were alone. Well, he will save us from the devil. But didn't the book say God created everything? That means he created the devil as well, did he not? Is he not responsible for fixing that mess? Or does forgive us our sins only apply to God? Most people regale at incest, and yet it's mentioned in 48 verses of God's book. Religious people regale at homosexuality, Yet didn't Jesus and or God say we must love all people the same? Again, it's all very contradictory, is it not? How does God's book tell you to fear him 84 times? Many people believe the Lord is God, and he loves them, and he is the all-nice entity who does no wrong. Yet the book tells you to fear the Lord 186 times. Is that not a control system? Mind control? You think God or the Lord should be making you fear him? God is love, we are told, which is a higher vibrational frequency. And yet it is mentioned 270 times in his book to fear him, which is low vibrational frequency, which is gaslighting, which is mind control, which is MK Ultra, which is not conducive to growth. See how it all connects? Since when has the fear emotion ever been about love? And it's not just Christendom either that delivers messages of what would be described as conspiracy in any other circle outside of religion, with virgin births and talking snakes. But the scriptures tell you that Buddha and Ra were born out of their mother's side, for source sake. You know, it adds a whole new meaning to my sides are splitting. Yes, with laughter at the sheer stupidity of narratives contained within them books. The mother gave birth out of the side. You know, that would be classed as a conspiracy. And the questions to ponder on the subject of Jesus: would you know who he was if he returned? If you saw him in the street looking all raggedy, you know, he's been dead for 2,000 years, would you help him, or would you do what most people do to raggedy people in the street? Turn up their nose and scurry by, like a homeless person. Remember, Jesus, if he returned, as they say, would be homeless, would he not? What if he came to you today and said, "Hello, my name is Jesus"? What would your response be? Fuck off, zombie. You're fake. You stink. Go and get a wash. You look like a Muslim terrorist. Where's your ID? They may sound all funny, but is it not a true reflection of how society in general now treat people? Some would thump him for lying. And what this proves is no one would have a clue whether he was real or not, because there is no defined proof, only a set of beliefs given to you by the system. If he returned and didn't have a beard, people will say he's fake, but you wouldn't know if it was real or not. Nobody would. So, what is proof? There is none. If I told you Dave Biondal was Jesus, would you believe it? If Trump or Putin told you, would you believe it? If some fake channeled message told you, would you believe it? So what is proof? And yet some Langley agent or think tank scriptwriter tells you something fantastical on the internet, and so many believe it. You know, in overview, and on that basis, that makes the CIA the bastion of proof, does it not? Please cue my favourite MeWe GIF of what I've just said. Because they're the ones that are writing this script. So how does those last few paragraphs sound to you? Does it make you feel a bit stupid? Well, we've all are a bit stupid at times, so don't feel too bad. And the key to correcting our own stupidity, and this is where critical thinking comes in, you have forgotten to apply your own questions to any narrative, whereby to look at a narrative and weigh up your own questions based on it. Many will hear this piece and go, wow, I never thought of it in that way. My question is, why didn't you? Each and every one of you is more than capable of bringing up those questions and analysing them in the same way. And once you analyse many things in the manner of what we've been told, it all falls apart in a contradictory pattern which always repeats. And it all comes back to you, what you put your energy into, a belief system or your own understanding and truth. Many will throw themselves into arguing about politics, and yet a reminder of the famous saying reveals our own folly of that. Quote, politics is the last resort for the scoundrel. And politics is often the last refuge for the scoundrel, thief and idler. Why would we waste our energy on scoundrels, thieves and lazy people? And yet the whole QAnon thing on the internet focuses entirely on the political scene, does it not? But when you look at that in overview, what we're asking is, we're asking a politician who are declared scoundrels, thieves and idlers to correct a corrupt system of which all of them on some level are a part of that corruption, whether directly or indirectly, coerced or not. Does that make any sense whatsoever? It's like asking Al Capone to clean up the mafia, is it not? They're not going to do it. And so everything comes back down to you, what you believe based on a relayed narrative, or what you know based on your own questioning of things and coming to an understanding. Should anyone listening to this believe everything I say is gospel? Funny word that, is it not? Go spell. As in cast a spell. Absolutely not. And I encourage you all to do your own investigations into topics where it's actually possible. Although, having said that, there are certain types of investigations now becoming narrower by the day, as search engines block whole batches of information on certain subjects. But if you seek, you shall find. You know, I got all my knowledge from doing my own investigations, work over a prolonged period of time. I haven't had to do that as much over the last 3 or 4 years for various reasons. But I studied material and individuals and asked questions. Were they consistent? Did their frequency or path change? And over time it becomes easier to spot. And unlike many others, I do not have a background in agencies, brotherhoods, fraternal orders, religious sects, cult of Ra, Talmudic, Catholic, Buddhist or Hindu teachings, witchcraft or bloodline families. And in essence, that makes me unique in some ways. as I'm not poisoned, coerced or pulled into line by anyone. I charted my own path, and that is the key for us all. Chart your own path. But it's also why I get so much attention. You know, I'm not swayed by money, fame or titles either, all of which are fake and or control systems. I just want a fair and transparent planet for all beings here, not just humans. All. And a chance for everyone to prosper, not just survive day to day. That's not living. That's existing. Big difference. Nothing more, nothing less. You know, I was quizzed by a certain group of people last year of what I want. And I told them the above, and they said, no, you're not getting it. What do you want? And I said, no, you're not getting it. I've just told you what I want, and that is it. And to do that, we have to replace all of the old failed systems, as none of them were designed to work for us. Some will have to be deleted and some repurposed, phased in, phased out. You know, too many do things for their own ends. You know, I know there are some in THI that are in THI for the funds only. I get that. But sometimes it would be nice if more people were in it for the bigger picture and the all, not just themselves. So my agenda is to crush the old system that failed not only most humans, but all other living species on and in this planet. It was designed that way and was inclusive of all so-called special status people also, not just us lowly slaves. No, M would never lie, they say. All hail M. You stupid bastards. He lied through his teeth to every one of you. 1% truth, 99% lies. And because of your own inability to critical think, it was all so easy to pull off. M would never lie to us. Oh, dear me. He lied that much you didn't recognise it. All seduced by how many pieces of paper you were going to get. How many titles, how many pieces of land, or how many businesses. And you all went along with it. And he just collected and collected and lied and lied. To those special status people, I hope you all listened to your special guest this week. I mean, properly listened. Because if you don't, you will pay a price for that level of non-hearing and stupidity. You will not be allowed to stall the restoration of this planet. She and we have made that very clear now. The planet is about to go in a different direction, in more ways than one could possibly think. The consensus on the higher levels of thinking is what was done was wrong, and there is a will and drive to correct that now by enough beings. It will never be the all. Some are just psychotic. And now, more than ever, we have a fantastic opportunity to turn this world into a much better, safer and harmonic place than it ever was. It requires the participation of the all to drive that. Initially it is and has been the few for various reasons. But doors will open. But you have to be ready to walk through them. That's not down to anybody else, but for you to choose your path. Just you. If your first thought is to ask, what can I do? You really haven't absorbed the message of not only this particular show, but the hundreds of other shows that I've done. People often ask, how is Kim or I involved in the council? It's not because we were appointed, but because we both decided to do something that would or could have an effect. Although Kim later was appointed by them as an ambassador. No one told us what to do. The key is we just did it. And everyone else on this planet had the same opportunity to do so, but never believed in it. And the saddest thing, and more importantly, never believed in themselves. That has to be corrected by each and every one of you. This has been the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name's Thomas Williams. Bye for now.